The tower rose from the cliffside in defiance of gravity. Precision and wealth made stone and glass, a monument to the belief that everything could be ordered, fought, won. On the top floor, in a room of ostentatious grandeur, Isela stood before her father. He was a man who had made an entire life from structure, legal, rhetorical, social. His mastery of language and law had elevated him to the heights of influence. And yet, none of that mattered now. Not here. Not with her. Their voices had risen and fallen. The words were real, sharp, deliberate, desperate. But by the time she reached the edge of the balcony, any hope of a meaningful exchange had already broken down. He would remember every syllable, but his words and his logic no longer held the power he'd once believed in. There are moments when everything a man has built reveals itself to be inadequate. And standing before him was one of those moments. Isela no longer seemed to be a daughter in his orderly and structured world. She had somehow stepped out of it. She had become something he couldn't negotiate with, something he could no longer argue or reason into appropriate obedience. She climbed the balcony rail, calm, not reckless, not resigned. She looked out, not down. And then she was gone. She fell not like something broken, but like something freed. The sea below reached for her, and for a moment, everything stopped. Same time, down in the cove, where the city's foundations met the dark tides, something else inhaled, a breath that had waited a long time to be taken. What rose from those waters bore her shape. Its hair was matted against pale cheeks, its limbs soaked and slow to move. It blinked once, long, deliberate, then began to climb the slick rocks toward the lights above. There was no panic in her movements, no urgency in her breath, only the calm of something that had stepped beyond fear, a stillness that was not emptiness, but rather the eye of a force too ancient to name. By the time it stepped into the lobby of the tower, whispers had drifted down from her father's office, high above. People turned, froze. The guards made a single step, then halted in confusion and mute wonder at the vision advancing before them. Water dripped from the being onto the smooth-tiled floor. She wore Isela's clothes. Her face was Isela's face. But there was something wrong in the posture. Too smooth, too quiet, a kind of stillness that did not belong to the living. She spoke, but rarely. When asked questions, she paused for so long that silence answered in her place. And when she did respond, her words drifted. Her tone was warm. Her attention, distant. She was not confused. She was simply no longer participating in the performance the world expected of her. It was one of the assistants who noticed first. The fabric of her shirt, soaked and clinging to her back, revealed skin where there should have been ink. Isela had been known for a wide tattoo across her shoulders, wings and text bold and black. But this woman's back was smooth, empty, unmarked. Having descended the tower in silence, her father appeared before her. His face was caught between shock and something colder. Fear, maybe, or disbelief. He asked her what had happened. She looked at him the way the ocean looks at a man drowning, not with cruelty, but with a vast, impersonal silence. She did not command. She did not plead. But the world around her began to loosen, as if held together by lies that no longer feared being exposed. Down below, in the canal system carved from riverbeds and ancient stone, a gun battle raged, Police boats, smugglers, smoke, sirens, chaos pulsing beneath the streets like a second heart. But the violence wasn't new. It was old. Something the city had always known, but pretended it didn't. For years, the canals had hidden everything the surface couldn't contain. Trafficking, corruption, blood. It ran through the old channels like memory, like instinct. Most had learned to ignore it, to walk above the smoke and noise and pretend the city was clean. But now, as the sounds began to rise into the tower lobby above, a knowing rose with them, a quiet certainty that something in the balance had shifted. The shadows beneath the city stirred, not in response to her, but in recognition, like something once buried had caught the scent of its own kind returning. As Isela moved through the building above, the violence below intensified, as though the two were tied by a thread no one could see. Her ethereal stillness called the unrest to the surface, not deliberately, not cruelly, just inevitably. It was as if her return had not only cracked the tower, but split the city down to its roots, and the old darkness long buried had begun to rise. She walked through the building, barefoot and dripping, and returned to the office that had once been hers. She sat in the chair by the window, facing the ocean that had taken her. And then she did nothing. She did not speak. She did not leave. She just watched. And slowly, the city began to shift. The lights flickered. Networks faltered. Documents and contracts no longer seemed to matter. People found themselves forgetting why they were angry, what they were chasing, what they believed in. She did not tear the city down. She only watched. And in her watching, the structures that had defined it for centuries began to tremble, as though the very act of being seen by her made pretense impossible. Something in the world had come undone, or perhaps something older had returned. Though she never moved from that chair, though her mouth never opened again, the silence around her thickened. It grew until it filled the tower, then the district, then the city. It was not a void. It was a presence, a stillness more honest than all the systems it replaced. Something new had entered the world, and the old world, feeling it, began to tremble.